I'm going to talk about some real data. One of the biggest questions that we have seen coming out in a pitch deck or the founders interacting with us is, where should I start? If you remember in a typical enterprise software and later on software as a service, we would typically take a workflow and will automate the workflow, right? If, for example, if you're getting a shipping app, a user will go, he'll fill the form, this is a good I want to ship, then he'll go to the container company or a DHL, they will give you bill of lading, then it'll go further. So typically take a workflow and we'll automate it. So therefore we'll create efficiency from 1x anywhere to 10x. So now things are changing. I'm going to walk you through what we have seen with some data, and then I'm going to talk about how to think about opportunities. Now what we have seen, first of all, we are very lucky to see 3 waves in our lifetimes. Started with internet, with Netscape, followed by mobile, iPhones, and now we're seeing AI. So AI wave, what data has shown us is that is the faster than the previous wave. ChatGPT was the fastest app to reach 100 million users, as you know. It kind of stagnated, came down, and after dev days started going up again, right? And what we have seen with every technology adoption wave is that apps start coming into edges first. How many of you remember when the iPhone came first, there was a Spotlight app, the app that we use, right? It was a separate app. Now it's a feature in iPhone. Similarly, when Windows was there, we used to play around with Real Player, Winamp. Now iTunes came in, it's a part of the whole music is a part of your core platform. So typically, when a wave starts, your technology starts moving on the edges, a lot of use cases come into play, and then finally platform consolidates some, and the new company starts also getting built around that. So therefore, it's a very important point to remember that we are just at the beginning of AI right now. So which means a lot of apps that you see may not exist, may become features in the larger platform, but the opportunity is going to be huge. The biggest thing that a lot of people ask, especially after B2C, that where is the real money? Okay, you can talk about apps, all of us are happy, millions of users, but are you creating real revenue? The good news is, yes, it is beyond a trend and you have real value drivers. If you look at the 3 vectors of value, we have explosive usage. Of course, OpenAI everybody knows, but this company called Character.ai, they have 3.8 billion visits per week now in about 1 year. GitHub CoPilot, 100 million ARR, Midjourney is greater than 200 million ARR. Shopify has now 1 million lines of code using CoPilot, and Pfizer has realized about $1 billion in saving. So the productivity, this time we are looking at almost 1000x to 10,000x productivity. So therefore, user is also going to happy to pay. And later on in the session, we'll have a few companies present, and they'll talk about how users are paying for their services in a very, very quick fashion. So we do expect that if you create a right offering, you can create real revenue in AI. So that's a very big value driver. This is how, there's a lot of research happening on how to look at the AI stack. This is research by Cotu, one of the hedge funds. So there are about 4 layers where the opportunity exists. Of course, semiconductors, all of you know it's a race there right now. You have AI cloud, where AWS, Microsoft. Then AI models, where you're going to hear Vivek from Servam, he's in the room here. Where we're building foundation model, getting data and training on data. Obviously, US is far ahead. India is just getting started there. But then look at the apps, which is where historically we have been very strong. We're beginning to see some apps coming from India as well, especially in horizontal, vertical DevOps. And then you have AI Ops, which is totally new, which is tooling for AI, a layer which sits between your foundation layer and the application layer. We did our work on AI landscape in India. So we have seen more than 50 companies already out there which are, doing some seriously good work. There are more than 250 companies, but these companies are doing some seriously good work in every layer: horizontal, vertical applications, developer applications, AI Ops, foundation models. I'm going to talk about a few of them as we go along. So now the question is, how should you think about the opportunity set? And why, and when you think as a founder where to start, this is a framework we kind of evolved. So you have AI first markets. Now what are AI first markets? AI first markets are the markets which were not available with the software as a service application oriented frameworks. For example, legal tech, prime example, right? There was no technology existing which could create automatic draft for you, summarize the text for you, read the OCR, and then do a lot of work for you. All that is available. Suddenly the market become a new market. So these are AI first markets. Similarly, in healthcare, you will see automatic drug delivery, drug discovery, nurses workflow, documentation workflow. There are multiple use cases. I'm going to talk about one of them later on. Also an example of AI first market. So there's a market where you see, like Jasper came in. I'm sure a lot of you know about Jasper. It was a drafting tool. It can draft blogs for you on the fly, save a lot of time on the content side. We have Jana is going to present. They're doing legal work in India. They're going to present after this session. So that is where a lot of value is getting created, but a lot of competition is also coming at the same time. So typically revenue goes up, then it kind of stalls. A lot of new application comes. So you have to be very innovative about how you think about those use cases. Now, second example is existing markets. And the most popular market, of course, is sales and marketing. From our data, it shows that 40% of the founders in SaaS are sales and marketing founders. Now, that is where you have big incumbents, Salesforce, Microsoft, Google Workplaces. So how do you compete in that? So there you need a very, very different strategy. There you need to look at, for example, one of the areas that we are very excited about and Grish talks very fondly about is lead capture, lead intelligence. With new channels coming in, how do you create, there are multiple ways to create, lead magnets, so to speak, and then kind of feed into already existing platforms. I'm going to talk about it later in the presentation. And then there are niche market. This is my favorite market. So niche markets are the markets which perhaps are very small previously. For example, market on RCM, revenue cycle management in healthcare. For every disease, you have to create a separate RCM strategy or RCM workflow. Now with AI coming in, perhaps you create a much more horizontal platform. So suddenly a niche market becomes a larger market. So your total addressable market size really grows. So that becomes a really, really interesting market. Similarly, TheWise, one of our portfolio companies, they convert your Figma to code automation. It's a low-code software. It was a very niche market. With now AI coming in, they're becoming far more broad-based. So therefore, suddenly many niche markets suddenly become really, really important and you can create business out there. And finally, the model market, which is a massive race right now, as you know. So I'm sure a lot more models will come. A lot more models are coming right now. Every day, you already see Google launching Gemini day before yesterday, and more models are going to come. This is a framework we follow on looking at how to look at the markets. So what we have seen, so together in the last 6 months, we were sitting, November 22 is when ChatGPT was launched. So we almost had a year of ChatGPT launch. So the first 6 months, it was an eerie silence. And we used to sit in the room and really think, what's really going to happen to India? Because all of us trying to figure out where is the real opportunity. We just don't know anything about AI. But this time around, after 6 months, we started seeing founders coming in. In 6 months' time, ecosystem is beginning to catch up. So we've seen about 250 pitch decks in last 6 months. Most of them focus on horizontal. That's where our India has been historically very, very strong in. But the good news is that there are plenty of companies starting up in productivity. We are big fans of productivity space. Whether creating presentations on the fly. Later on, Sumant is going to talk about it and present to you. So I'm not going to share what he does. But he's in the presentation space. We have seen few companies in healthcare, legal, and AI ops as well. So founders are beginning to pivot and look at those AI first markets. Still, sales and marketing is a top most horizontal to start. We find it very hard to look at those companies and how to scale because there are very few white spaces left in that. But having said that, there are always, founders come with exceptional ideas and you could create a multi-billion-dollar company out there. And of course, there in the foundation model and AI cloud companies which are beginning to come. We will see many more companies coming out there as well, especially when you look for India opportunity, we'll see many more companies out there. Now this is a question which, I was in New York in November. We met, global investors. We met over 200 global investors so far. The single biggest question they were asked is, what is real India's advantage when it comes to AI? And they were very skeptical as whether India can do something in AI. So I'm going to present some data. India has 5.4 million software developers. So people ask us, so what? They will be redundant. Software is getting automated. What will they do? So what we did, we ran a survey. I'm sure a lot of you responded to that survey as to how are current companies building AI apps. 99% of the companies have used existing talent to build an AI app, which means our developers have a very good ability to learn AI at a very fast pace. As I said, with a gap of about 6 months only. So large amount of talent will be able to build AI apps at a much, much faster pace, is what we're seeing very early on. And you know what? India is the second largest contributor to GitHub in AI and ML repositories after the US. Again, a very, very positive sign. We have historical success in building applications from India. You know that, you have Freshworks listed, you have Zoho, you have ChargeBee, we have Eka, many more companies who have done that work over the last 10 to 15 years. So we understand the functional workflows extremely, extremely well. And we have deep domain knowledge in our services companies. I'm talking about healthcare market, the transcription market, the revenue cycle. There are multiple multi-billion-dollar KPOs, BPOs that exist in services companies in India, which can get automated. So overall, we believe India will have a large role to play in AI. Whether number 1, number 2, number 3, nobody knows. But billions of dollars of market cap will be created for sure. Now, if that is the case, where do we see the opportunities? So I'm going to begin to go deep down into a little bit more use cases to give you an idea of where these are some areas where Grish and I have spent time and thought about. These by no means is fully comprehensive. Whatever time we get, we spend on each area, do some research. So, I'm going to talk about healthcare. If you can bring the rapid claims example, I'm going to showcase to you what they have done and what kind of efficiencies they are creating. This is Rapid Claims is a company which is helping right now radiologists in a revenue cycle management. So what is revenue cycle management? In the US, when you go to a health provider, they take an X-ray or any radiology related experiment or check on you, they then have to go to insurance company and give a specific code for a specific disease. There are about 250,000 codes that you have to figure out from the transcript that doctor has written, sent to health or insurance provider. So today, a lot of that work happens manually in India. You know how much time it takes? It takes 5 hours for one person to decipher almost 1 to 5 such transcription, because they have to first find doctor report, read it, understand what it means, then go to a manual to understand which code it is going to, and then they're going to go to insurance provider. Now this company started by domain experts. They have one data scientist from pharma company. The founder used to work in pharma company, they used to work for together after that. And they have a very good CTO on board as well, who's built a SaaS company before. So they brought all these 3 people together, and they are able to generate efficiency about 1000x. What used to happen in 5 hours can happen in 5 minutes. And what happens when you have humans doing medical coding work? Every time an employee leaves, it takes about 3 months or 6 months to ramp up an employee. But algorithms keep on getting better and better on every single day as they get and churn more data. So therefore, huge amount of value proposition. They started with radiology, but now they're going to add disease one by one. They have 5 health providers in the US which have signed as design partner. Very, very niche market, but very large market. 2, 3 multi-billion-dollar companies out of India already exist in services, so you can create a multi-billion outcome in this domain. So that's how they have taken one workflow, but thought very deeply about that particular workflow and creating 1000x productivity. So when you create 1000x productivity, the companies are going to pay you. They will pay you a fraction of it, but the fraction is going to be a lot for the company of this size as well. Right. So this is an example. How many of you know the workflow of shipping and logistics and supply chain? Okay, very few of you, right? So we all consume goods. Flipkart or Amazon is sending goods home. They have to go through massive supply chain, warehousing, multiple ships, last mile delivery. Then you have intra-city transport, intercity transport. So there are about thousands of transactions which a particular shipment has to go through before it reaches your home. Now all that can be automated. So there are a lot of manual work that happens in that, right? As I start our presentation, I said you to fill the form, then third party has to be informed, internal people have to be informed, cost has to be managed, invoicing has to come. Now all that can be automated. Just all manual entry can be done by the AI bots. Again, creating efficiencies more than 1000x. So shipping is a use case. You still need to receive the goods, somebody needs to ship the goods, but the workflow has to be reimagined totally, which means your software boundaries are getting pushed out of traditional software boundaries. And all of you know, when we were sitting and creating product requirement documents for supply chain before, we will call the user, do the user survey, and mimic their life in the day in the life, right? And say, this is how you're going to work, so let me create efficiency of 1 to 10x in that. Now this is an example where you can create 1000x efficiency, and we have huge amount of domain knowledge in India. SAP has a second largest center in India. You have Managistics, you have JD.com, you have you name the company in supply chain, they have a back office or a large presence in India, if not only in Bangalore. So that's how you can go through multiple option. We love code generation tools as well. I know a lot of you are developers here, and you know that accuracy is more than 80% right now. It's generating efficiency of 80 to 90% in development organization. But there are multiple areas. One such company we invested is Composio, which is automating the API creation. And all of you know when two softwares talk to each other, an API is required. And building that API and maintaining that API is time consuming, is error prone. Sometimes it can take anywhere from 1 month to 6 months or even 12 months, and then maintaining it is a challenge. So these are a few areas we have thought about. AI for India, we have a panel going after this talk on AI for India. Healthcare, who knows, we don't need doctors going forward, right? There's so much data coming in. Maybe AI is able to prescribe at the first level how a disease has to be managed, and especially in India where the reach is very hard, especially in tier 3, tier 4 towns, it can make huge amount of difference. Education, we're still trying to figure out how to make money in education, but there is a huge use case on how education will change. You must go and see Gemini's demo on education, right? It can read the text and tell you how to solve the problem. I'm sure all of you have seen. This is the very early days of what's happening here, and then foundation models for India, and many more opportunities will come. These are some of the lead capture and productivity. Greece spoke about how to build. So I'm going to give example of presentation.ai. Someone is going to talk about it. While models are really important, you have ChatGPT, you have Llama 3, now we have Llama 4 coming, you have Google's platform coming, you have Grok, you have Anthropic. But really very important is how do you create an orchestration layer in between, which can accommodate all the changing models, right? Which means you have to build a component of visualizations, you have to build the component of rendering. A lot of time we used to build cloud agnostic models, right? With Waze Cloud came, we have option of building on AWS, Azure, and then we kind of start building the layer through which we can use any cloud to deploy our application. A similar approach will be required in the application space as well. There are a few examples where you can build companies on the horizontal space. Pika is a company we have deliberately put out there. It's a US company. There are a lot of video platforms that have come into the market, but they have come. Look at the quality. They're able to produce an animation quality of video in few seconds. So that means even if there are a lot of incumbents in a particular market, you can still go and disrupt that market because quality one dimension which is changing every single day. These are a few vertical applications I have already spoken about: logistics, legal tech, prop tech. I have real estate friends here, so prop tech is changing. You go and how do you find the land? How do you design the building? A building design typically takes months and months. You go with architect, government back and forth. Design. Now AI can show you hundreds of various types of designs. It can tell you the cost on the fly. The work used to happen in 6 months can be done in about 2 weeks now. So that's the kind of efficiency we're generating in property technology. So what does it mean? Where can India win? So when we look at what we have reached so far, and this is what we think, things may change when we come here next time. We believe we have to reimagine the traditional software boundaries. Focus on the business problem, like Greece talked about. The business value is the key focus, right? Music remains the same, gadgets keep on changing, but we have to think about software beyond traditional boundaries. When I spoke about logistics, legal tech, horizontal spaces. So when you are looking at software, don't just, at least in our experience, we have to go beyond first order of thinking to fourth level of thinking. As to, for example, I'm sure all of you use SDRs to sell their products, right? You have sales representative who sell the product. And they are sending you emails. After emails, they call you, you talk to them. Based on that, they will qualify as a lead. Now imagine we may not even need SDRs. AI can go in, go to database, call somebody, have a chat with them, come and tell you what is the intent, and you just get a qualified lead at your hand. Right? So when you are thinking of building a software for optimizing your sales, you have to think very differently, understanding how AI is going to change the entire context. So that's what we mean by reimagining the traditional software boundaries. Architect for multi-model orchestrations. We believe that the general purpose models at some time will be taken by a large tech platform. There will be some new companies who will come, but the cost will come down, but there will be a lot more opportunity to build on top of it. So think of last mile of those general purpose models. For example, model for healthcare. Freshworks model for fresh service because they have billions and billions of tickets which they have access to. So think about the tuning of the last mile which gives you more accuracy. That accuracy, when they'll give you a moat, help you win more market share, and also create a architecture which can help you use those smaller models, larger models. That is where I think a lot of success is going to come on how do you really architect your product, because models are changing every day. You have to be able to build a software right from day one which can accommodate this changing landscape in the model. Open source, closed source, a lot of discussions happening. Should you use Llama 3, which is open source meta, or should you use OpenAI, right? And open source is also going to go better and better with every single passing day. So you have to have an option where you can use both so that you're not stuck in the cost. There's also a huge cost implication of using these models, right, behind the compute layer. So that's what we mean by architect for multi-mode orchestration. And finally, we have huge amount of success so far. In 2014, we could not imagine that India can create global companies, of this many magnitude, standing in 2023 or the cusp of 24, so almost in a decade. So over the last 10 years, with work that we have done in SaaS Boomi, with Avinash and all the founders who are sitting here, a lot of you are volunteers in SaaS Boomi, I know. We have built a playbook on how to build a global company from India. Please go and revisit. Those fundamentals will not change. Yes, new pricing models will come. We are going from user-based pricing to usage-based pricing right now. There's a lot more transactional nature, but the fundamental building block of company is not going to go away. An idea cannot create a company, right? Company is far more than the product, right? How do you hire? How do you hire in the US? How do you build a sales team? If you need a sales team based on your model, how do you market your product? Those fundamentals are all going to remain. So let's go back to the fundamentals, revisit them. Let's try not to make too many mistakes. So that's what we believe is going to help us win. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of market share in this multi-billion market opportunities that are in front of us.